All right, welcome to this week's team call / book club. We are Dynasty Strong, the Level Up Squad. I'm super excited, super pumped up about this call. There's just a couple announcements I want to make before we get into our book. In the chat, in the meeting chat, I have put down, as a reminder, the pages that we're on and the chapters that we're reading. So the only real announcement that I have is there is this weekend on Saturday, what's called the Champagne Gala. Now, I don't drink, and I've had some of my customers say, like, I don't drink, so is this something I go to? I know Laura is in a sobriety run for years. So I'll be pounding my Energize out of a nice glass cup with some ice. Any excuse for me to drink that stuff is good for me. So one thing to know is in the Dynasty Strong Level Up Squad team page, I put a couple of images. We have a team Zoom that's going to happen that is hosted by Lindsay Matway, and there's a schedule. So it'll actually start before what you might be seeing in your email about the gala, like if you RSVP'd for that and whatnot. So in the team page, we have a team Zoom meeting that we'll get on where Lindsay and I think it's Bonnie Engel we'll share some things, and then we'll just slide into the gala. And what is the gala? It's basically, there'll be some guest speakers like Lacey, Carl Deichler, obviously will be there. But it's for the launch of changing our name from Beachbody to Body. So we'll be officially transitioning over there. So that's really the only announcement I wanted to make, other than if you, after this call, take some time, because we are learning about stories that stick, take some time to go over to Chris Pandolfo and Haley Pandolfo's page, comment on the reel that they made and the reel that they're sharing. We're trying to get her in for the Beachbody Challenge to be the first ever husband-wife $100,000 grand prize winners, which would be awesome. So all the sharing we can get of their story will be great. So let's jump into stories that stick. I want to share with you guys, and it's up to you guys, because this is an open discussion where you guys share what you took away from this. I share what I took away from this. But one of the things that stuck out to me as I was reading this morning, it was talking about your founding, was it called your founder story? It was talking about the founder story, and it didn't matter whether your company's been around for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And for us as coaches, whether we've been around for 2 weeks, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, like me, it's important that you continually tell your founding story. And there's a lot, and it doesn't have, and she goes on in this book to explain, it doesn't have to be like some big earth-shattering thing. Like every single one of us has a story about what it was like when we got started. And it really just, as I was reading it this morning, I was just thinking about all of the little stories that led up to where we got started. Like there's a story of the guy knocking on my door, trying to bring me back to church, that was ripped, that introduced me to P90X. There's a story of the day I became a coach, April 11th, 2011, when I felt overwhelmed in my office as I received the hospital bill, the doctor bill, the anesthesiologist bill, and I was like contemplating, do I go back to school? Do I need a second job? And that's the day I decided to become a coach. So there was all these stories I was thinking about, but also like triggered me to think about a lot of other stories, like why the Success Club trip to Atlantis was so important for me to earn. And to earn that, I had to hit Success Club, which got me kicking my business off really fast. And the story that it made me think about, and I promise I won't tell you guys stories for an hour, but the story that I thought about is Gabby and I got married. She worked at the hotel, so we got a great deal for hotel rooms we bought flights to Florida, and we got hotel rooms booked through her hotel in 3 different cities. It was like West Palm Beach, Miami, and I think Fort Lauderdale. And each night we booked one. It was like a 3-night thing. And I rented a car. It was the cheapest rental place I could find online. And we booked these 3 hotels that were all like $29 a piece because she worked for the hotel. And so we took, I think it was like $500 cash, and we'd paid for these hotels. And I booked this this taxi service. So we get there and there's a shuttle that takes us to it, and it takes us off the airport in Miami. It's in July, like actually probably the first week of August, because we got married July 29th. Drops us off, and it's in the middle of like nowhere, kind of like some slums looking like place. I was a little sketched out, but we walk in. We're newlyweds. We're excited about this vacation. We want to pick up our car, cheapest one we found online, so we could drive north to our furthest destination for the first night. We get in there, and I don't have a credit card or a debit card. Never had one in my whole life. I just had a checkbook, and I had $500 cash. And so guess what? They wouldn't give me my car. And so I'm on the phone with my parents. I'm panicked. I'm on my honeymoon, right? And I'm like panicked, calling my parents, and my dad's on the phone. Got him on speaker, and I'm with the person at the desk. And my dad's like, I'll put it on my credit card, but they wouldn't do that unless he was there present. So we walk out. It's like 95 degrees and super humid. Gabby and I leave with our roll-on suitcases, and we just start walking down the street in Miami, somewhere in Miami. We have no idea where we're at. And we have $500 and we can't get our rental car. And so we go from one hotel to the next. They were all like $250, $200. And we find one that's $129, and it smelled like smoke so bad. We hate, we're always non-smoking rooms. And so we book this room, and we stay there for the night. We get in, we're like dripped in sweat because we walked probably a mile and a half till we found this hotel. We're going under underpasses of like, I was a little scared for my life, and I'm here supposed to be a newlywed protecting my wife. Anyway, we find this hotel. They let us pay cash to stay in this hotel, like $125. So I didn't take all my budget, because in my mind, I'm like, I have $500. I need to be able to, $125. I can get 3 nights hotel and some food, and we can make it back to the airport in 3 days. So we go out to eat, we listen to music, we end up making the best of it. But the next morning I wake up and I look out, because it's dark when we found our hotel. I look out the window, and across the street is a car dealership that rents their vehicles. And they rented us one of their cars for like $300 for 3 days. And so now I'm left with like $100, but we have hotels booked. So we get that car, and we go hit our second night and our third night, and we make it back. And that's how our honeymoon was. So when I found out that I could earn a trip for 2 to an incredible resort with incredible people, that's why I worked so hard on my business and sacrificed so much, because I wanted to, I put it up as a screensaver picture of Atlantis. It's got like 2 towers and this bridge that goes across, and the blue ocean. And I looked at it every day in my job, and I was like, I'm earning that trip, and I'm taking my wife on a honeymoon that she deserves. So that's why I worked so hard my first year. So it made me think this morning as I was reading the book, that's what storytelling is. That's what they're talking about on Founder Stories. Those are the things where our clients, our prospects, our coaches, as we bring them on, will connect somehow with a moment that they felt like that, and then bridge the gap, because they've been talking about in this book, bridging the gap between your customer, your potential customer, and buying your product, or bridging the gap between your coach that you have on your team with putting in the daily effort to build their business, right? So that's what I want to share. I have a bunch of stuff highlighted, but I just wanted to share that story with you as I was thinking about that this morning, but also encourage you guys to take action after this call and share a story. So when I read that this morning, I just reshared the school bus story. I took a picture of Kina, Mila, and my daughter Ellie at about the ages they were when I had my moment picking Kina up at the school bus, when I realized that I wanted to make this my full-time job, and I told that story. So that was a founding story, right? So I want to encourage you guys after this call, not to be like, oh, that was all good information and that's cool. Oh, I love that story Scotty told, or that Laura told. And I want you guys to block out some time. More important than anything else in your business is to get that out there and share something about your start. And remember, it doesn't have to be, she explains in the book, it doesn't have to be extravagant. It could be remembering a time when you couldn't fill the gas tank all the way, and now you have this business and you're going to work really hard so that you never have to fill that again. You don't even have to have accomplished it yet. It could be what you're aspiring to do. Just like when Chris won the Beachbody Challenge, he's like, I'm going to lose 170 pounds and save my life and win the Beachbody Challenge. It didn't happen yet when he told the story. So remember that as you guys are crafting your stories today. So who else wants to share? That's where I'm starting.
Well, I loved all of this. I'm not quite done, as you know. I do things in my own time, but I sat up last night because I couldn't fall asleep, and I read some more, and the founder's story was pretty amazing. And I loved going back to, I don't know if it was last week, but going and finding all those other stories, like the commercials that she was talking about. And I remember those so vividly. And those are the commercials that stuck in my mind, as time went on. The Anheuser-Busch commercial with the cute little puppy. I mean, who doesn't like little puppies? So fast forward going into this founder story, and I knew when she was talking about the two guys in San Francisco who had thought they could help those people at the convention find a room. They could rent out an air mattress. I knew, and I looked, I went, Airbnb, it's got to be Airbnb. And so I thought that is brilliant. I am in BNI, Business Networking International, and every week we have to do a little 1-minute commercial. So I'm totally revamping how I do my commercials, and I've got a 7-minute coming up. So I'm really going to apply the founder's story to my next 7-minute presentation. And I'm excited, and maybe one of these days I'll share it with you all to kind of get a critique, and you can let me know how that goes. So that's kind of all I had to share today. I think it's really important that we apply what we're learning. I talked to a woman yesterday. Oh, I read that book. Oh, I read that book. I said, well, how's it going? She goes, oh, I just read them. I don't do anything with it. And it's like, what's the point of reading it if you're not going to apply it? So, I mean, that's just my new philosophy this year, because I have stacks of books I've done nothing with.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And by all means, like, don't be afraid. Like, when's that BNI meeting, for example?
Oh, the one I'm sharing is in 2 weeks on the 15th. Is it the 15th? Whatever that the next 2 weeks went from Wednesday is.
Well, I'm gonna challenge you to just start crafting it right away. Obviously, you're probably.
Oh, I am. I already have.
And I want you to just go in the Level Up Squad live and just practice, like, because we're all part of your team, and I think we could give you like great tips.
Well, it's a whole PowerPoint. I'm doing it on PowerPoint, but I'm thinking, I wish I need to learn how to make it like just pop, like do an iMovie or something. But all I have is an iPhone. I don't have a Apple computer, so I'd have to do it all on my phone. But I just want to make it super creative and something that people will remember me by.
Yeah. I think making all that creativity will make it pop, and they'll remember, kind of like the commercials, like writing on the little the gum on the little gum wrappers and folding it up at the end, and you can see that. But Laura, the main thing is going to be them listening to your heart about the story. That'll be the main thing. So by all means, feel free to share it without your presentation. Just to practice.
I'll be brave. I can be brave with all of you.
Yes. And Lacey says, get the app CapCut. It does pretty well on your phone. CapCut.
CapCut. Okay. Thanks, Lace.
Cool. Who else wants to share something?
Can I just ask one last question? How many here are going to be at Summit? Okay. Good. Well, Chris, you're going to be there. Haley's going to be there getting her award for the Beachbody Championship. Where's your hand? That's why I loved book club last year, because I felt like once we got to Summit, I knew all the people that were in the book club, and it was so fun.
Yeah, that was cool how that happened, because we all ended up being there. Awesome. Who else wants to share something? Justin Crowder says he's working on it. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Justin Crowder. He is going Emerald on Thursday. So he signed his first two coaches, preferred customers / coaches. Cool. Who else wants to share something? I found my thing while someone waits to share, where it says, oh, I lost it. Oh, here it is. No matter where the founder currently is on her or his quest for entrepreneurial success, the story of the early days often reads like a fairy tale, which is exactly why you should tell it and never stop. And it was just my reminder too. It's like, never stop, because I think we chatted about it last week. We're like, oh, I've already said this story so many times. Like, I don't want to bore people with the same story over and over, but there's always new eyes, and it's always important to remind. This reminded me of the importance of that founder story, and that's what really connects people. Cool. Who else wants to share?
Hey, Scotty.
Hey, see what's
I was gonna say this week I was doing some other personal development. I don't remember if it talks about it in this book, but one of the main things I really need to focus on in my stories is talking to people's pain points. I'm not so good at that, but I need to think about that. Like, what were my pain points when I was looking for a solution? And then how did I solve them? I know that that's something that I could focus on with my story building as well, is just like what things were really causing me like problems or pain, and how this is a solution for them.
Yeah, I love that. Laura.
That resonated too with me. It's on page 71. And it talks about normal explosion and new normal. And I was thinking about this because a lot of times we don't really dig that deep with our clients. And this would be a really great Google Doc to send out a questionnaire to them for someone who has maybe just finished one of the latest programs. Because it talks about what were your problems before you started, what pain were you experiencing, and just ask people, because then they'll tell you. And then you can kind of compile a list and maybe put together a, whatchamacallit, and a sheet, whatever those sheets are called. I have brain fog. And then when you're crafting your posts, then you can refer back to these people's answers. I just thought it was kind of a brainstorm. Or we could send it out to each other.
Hey guys, real quick, I just have a question. Does anybody else struggle or have struggles with their story? I don't know. I just feel like mine is pretty boring. I don't know. I'm just having a hard time. I'm just a dad who is kind of tired of the grind, and I just, I want to get in good shape and that sort of thing, but I don't feel like my story resonates. So, Scotty, the question was, anybody else have a struggle with telling their story?
Yeah. So one thing that it makes me think about, and I'll give an example from my phone from a text I read yesterday, is like, even just hearing you say that you're a dad that struggles. Can you repeat what that was? Because I walked in right in the middle of it.
I said, I'm just a dad. I'm just tired of the grind, and just working for somebody else. I mean, I work for myself, but basically, I'm just tired of just trading time for money.
Yeah.
And I want to get in health. I want to be healthy and stay healthy and be in good shape.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of power in that, because I mean, there's 9 of us on here live right now. Whether you work or you stay at home or your spouse works, have they ever told you or expressed that they are tired of the grind and going every day and not feeling fulfilled or not earning enough or not feeling appreciated? Raise your hand. I just want to see. Okay.
I'm raising my hand.
Okay. So almost everybody on here, Justin, can relate with that in some way. So you do have a story, like you do have something to connect with other people about in that aspect. So in the book, I don't know what page it was, but it just talks about finding those small moments and getting detailed about them, right? Getting detailed about those small moments. Oh, there it is. Susan says a specific example, my daughter wanted to learn to do cartwheels and I couldn't help her, right? So that's an example. I'm going to share this one. He's usually on here, so I'll share it. Matt, you guys know Matt, right? He said, let's see what parts I can share for sure. Had a major event at work that had me working 16 plus hours a day. So something I've been working with Matt, he's almost at his rank of diamond. He's been working really hard, but then kind of lost a little motivation, got a little distracted here and there. And one of the activities I had him do is I told him I wanted him to write out his ideal day. Like if he didn't have to go to work and he had all the financial means that he needed to provide for his family and do anything that he wanted, what would his day look like? From what time he wakes up to who he spends his time with. Is he with his kids? Is he with his wife? Is he reading scripture? Is he working out? Like I told him to write out your ideal day in detail from when you wake up until you go to bed. So he did that activity. And then he goes on, and then this is, he just touched base with me, said, I work 16-hour plus days. I missed going to my kids' gymnastics that I always attend. I missed church and I missed a men's event Thursday because of it. It was another eye opener. And then he said, I ended up taking off this week from work. I'm using this as an opportunity to live these days as my ideal day that we discussed a couple months ago. I want to taste and feel those ideal days. Being here this morning as my kids went to school was incredible and so valuable. And then he went on to say, I must be more efficient with and make the most of my time so I can build my goals until I can leave my current job. I believe I can. And then he goes on and says some steps that he's going to do. And then he just said, I just texted Megan, that's his wife, how much I love being here this morning with her and the kids. This was her response. Me too. Lots of O's, exclamation point. We need to find you a different job. And then a broken heart thing. Like I'm getting emotional reading that, right? And it's just one moment. He took off work, spent time with his kids, and realized that he wants to experience that more. Does that make sense? So Justin, I just want you to find just some certain moment, maybe a time that you couldn't, whatever it could be. Maybe you couldn't make your kids' football game once. Maybe work had you stressed out once and you snapped at your wife and your kids because of stress from a job, whatever it might be. Just journaling might help. Just anything to just find those small moments. They don't have to be big things. Like what Matt shared with me wasn't huge. I took off work and I spent the day with my kids and experienced what that would be like. And I want to do that. And then the other end of that story is I want to experience that more often. Right? Does that help answer your question? Shaka. He threw it up. You didn't see it, Laura. Okay. So
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. And it could be, there could be ones for recruiting to your business. There could be ones for recruiting to just your challenge group. The one that I often tell for challenge groups was, when a ward missionary came to my house, my wife and I hadn't gone to church, ever since we'd been married. And I kind of do it in a jokingly way. Like I didn't know he was from the church, but he had brownies. So I let him in and, he was jacked and ripped. And so I asked him for advice, things I could do. He invited me to work out at the gym with him. He trains the high school football players. They trained at 6. I told him I can't go at 6 because I work from 5 to 5. And he's like, you should do that P90X workout. And then oftentimes I tell the part where I committed to it, but I didn't start. But my wife did. And I came up in the specific story that I tell when I talk to my prospects about that is like, I tell that whole story that I just explained. And then I tell them that on one of the days that my wife was off of work, I got home a little after 5 after my 12-hour day with all the intentions to start my workout that day. And I just laid down on the couch, and I could hear my wife downstairs to this Tony Horton guy doing a workout. And when she finished, she started jogging up and down the stairs. And that was the moment where I was like, I have to do something, because she's doing a workout and then running up and down the stairs, and I'm too tired to get off the couch. And that's when I made the full commitment, like, I'm going to really do this and follow the meal plan and not miss a single day. So see how it's a one moment. It's a one moment when something changed, or you experienced something that made you take action. So that's another example of something that I have experienced like that. Cool. I love that question. Can I share something else that I saw in here that I liked? It's under 94. And this will kind of help us, because some of us are struggling, like what kind of stories do we have? One section ends with, often all it takes is a simple story. Remember, it doesn't say complex or big, huge, life-altering story. All it takes is a simple story, a story of the time it all started, or the first success, or the first failure. So like, even an idea, like if you don't have the opportunity to go on vacation often, which Gabby and I didn't, like I remember in the first days, in the first months, and remember we had Gabby's discount. So a hotel room was like $29 at the local Hampton or Hilton Garden Inn. I would take my earnings, and, selling one box of P90X DVDs is $30. Well, what can I do with that? I can go on a vacation. I can do and we did staycations, and I talked about them on my social media about being able to take my kids to the hotel and to swim and to go out to eat with what I earned with my money. Right. So that's like sharing a early success. Or if it says you can share a first failure as well. But the beginning of a company is filled with stories, any number of which are unique and capable of setting you apart from everyone else. All things considered equal, your founder story will differentiate you from the competition, connect you in a meaningful way to your customer, and make you an easy yes. And then the part that I really wanted to share was the next section. It says, like, I underline all the things I like, but this one I'm like, this, and exclamation point lines under it. It's while a few businesses are designed to be a one-man show, more often for a business to scale and reach its full potential, a founder must bring others on, but not just any others, the best others. People who share the dream, who are invested in the outcome, and who are willing to take the wild ride along with them. And I circled that because what do I want to do right now? I want to grow this team. I want to see people achieve their goals. And so I was like, this is what I need to focus on. But one thing that stood out to me, put a little star by, is like, people who share the dream are the ones that are invested in the outcome. So how can we share a dream if we're not talking about our dreams? So Justin, anybody that has these types of questions, some of these stories might be actually writing out, discovering what your dreams are. And I'm talking about the ones that you're like once had, but you put them away and you're like, that's not going to happen. I'm in my 40s now. The kids are growing up. Like, it's too late for that, because everybody in here is at a different age. But for example, this thing of us building our dream house, when I had the dream, I've been thinking about it for years, everything I would want. And then the time came when it was maybe a possibility. I started to doubt it in some ways, like, maybe I shouldn't do that. What will people think if I do that? And all of these things, right? All these doubts that might be. But as I started to share them, like, everything started lining up. And where it says people who share the dream, just small examples outside of that, when we shared the dream of me leaving my job and doing this full time, Guess what type of people joined my team? People who had a dream of working for themselves or creating more time to be with their kids, never wanted to miss out at a day of their lives. And that was the part where it says, but not just any others, the best others, people with a dream, people who share the dream, who are invested in the outcome. So they were invested in, just like you right now, Justin, are invested in that. Chris is invested in that. I know Laura's hugely invested in contributing to her income and not relying only on, her husband having to do it all. You have to share that dream so that other people can know what that dream is and partner up with you. And it totally reminds me of, I went to a Brendan Bouchard event with Shalene Johnson, and there was this guy named James Wedmore. He was like a professional on video, like using video for your business. And we were at like the little cocktail party afterwards, and we took a picture with him. And I remember asking him, and Brendan Bouchard was there too. And he was asking me what I'd accomplished. And we'd already hit top 10 in the company. Our team was like 15,000 coaches or something like that. And so I let him know that, and I let him know where we were at. And he's like, well, what are you doing? And he's like, well, every like idea that I get from my personal development, I'm just hopping on YouTube and I'm just sharing it. Like when I want to pay off my house, like I'm talking about paying off my house. When we want to be top 10, I'm like, we're going to build a top 10 team. Right? When I wanted to take my family to Maui for the entire summer for a vacation, like I'm talking about, I'm going to take my family to Maui, and I'm still going to work every day. I'm going to get up at 5 and I'm going to work, be done by 10, and then hang out. So he's like, oh, it's no surprise to me that you're where you're at, because you tell the story all the time. You're telling your dreams, your goals, your visions. And that's where Brendan was there. And then I asked Brendan Bouchard, I was like, you just told me that you built, it was like 7 six-figure businesses in like a year. And I'm like, what's the difference between someone that does that and someone that can't even build 1 six-figure business? And he's like, oh, the person that builds the 6-figure business, whenever we all have great ideas, goals, dreams, visions, ambitions, but it's the ones that put it out into the universe by talking about it, putting it on video, putting it on social media, where other people with similar goals, dreams, visions, and ambitions see that video or see that content, and they connect, and the universe and God bring those people together, and they build a business, and they collaborate, and they work together, and they make it happen. Does that make sense? So it's all kind of aligning with what this is saying, like share your vision, share your goals, share your story. By doing that, you're going to connect with other people that share that same thing, that will work with their blood, sweat, and tears per se to make it happen. Right. And you're working with those people versus dragging somebody that's not doing anything, which who wants to do that? Not me. Okay. So awesome. Anybody else want to share anything? We got a couple had to leave for their doctor appointments and whatnot. Chris probably got his news and he's like, I got to go read this. So cool. What else? Anybody else want to share anything today?
Was Chris gonna hear about Haley today, whether she made the
Today's
cut?
the day. Yeah. So he's ready to hear about it. Yeah, I'm praying. He's worked super.
It's really great that we're talking about this, because Kai and I took what we call Hollywood hiking. We drive around in the truck and drive up in the hills and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've had this vision that let me backtrack. I live in a beautiful home with an ocean view. I've got Lanai and Molokai right over here. I see the sunset. It travels across the sky as the seasons change, and it's beautiful and I love it. But our neighbor can probably hear me talking, my neighbor here. And so I've had this vision of getting like 5 acres and putting our dream house on it, and then building a house for the kids so they can live there too, because they live with us now. And I love having my grandkids with me. But at some point they're going to be teenagers, and I'm probably not going to love it so much. So I found a property, and I thought, I have the best home already. Why do I need it? But after what you just said, struck a chord with me because I found an image. I found the property that I would love to live and build a dream house on, and it's stunning and it's way up high. And so I'm going to make a post about that
That's
because
awesome.
it is true. And people don't know how to dream anymore. And that's really sad. People get stuck with where they are and they feel like they can't get out of it. And then circling back to the income component, Social Security does not pay you anything. I mean, it's a pittance of what you're probably used to earning in an income. And, it's not enough. And from what I hear, it's probably going to be extinct in the next 10 or 15 years anyway. So there's some motivation right there to work a little bit harder and build a little bigger income.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. I can't wait to see that picture of that property.
Ooh, it's so pretty.
You
And the neighbors are far away. The neighbors are far, far away.
I love that. Where we're building our house, we're only 1.5 acres. It's not 5 acres, and I have 2 neighbors, but my backyard is like the water, and then it kind of goes up to a hill, and then the city's kind of hidden. Any rest of Idaho Falls is kind of hidden, and then there's the mountains in the background. So I'll have neighbors, but it will feel kind of secluded. And I was telling Gabby that the other day. We had a discussion till like 2:30 in the morning, the night before last night. And she just had some concerns about building this house. Like, will the kids, making sure the kids are humble and don't brag about we have this and so forth. And I reassured her, like, they're already like that. Like we've done well at raising them and whatnot. And she was like going on about how she's extremely like, we don't need that. And I was like, I know we don't need that, but we have the opportunity to do it. And, the quality of life that will give us for 8-month winters to have more indoor space to do activities and all that fun stuff. So I had to help her. I had to paint the vision of, instead of, Idaho gets dark at like 4:45 in the dead of winter, and we don't go outside because it's so cold. I was like, we can go inside, we can shoot hoops, like we can do all the things that we have planned in the house. And I was like, imagine when this, and so I had to paint that vision for her to see that bigger thing. And then guess what? She was once again all the way sold on, yes, this will be a good thing. Even though we don't need it, it's something that we deserve and we can work for.
Well, and the beautiful part about that too is that think of how much more influence and giving your children can do from that space than from the space that you're in.
Yeah.
Because we had a really big house when our kids were growing up. Our house is tiny now because that's what we want. We want to travel more, and that's what we're doing. But when our kids were little, we had a 3-story log home on 5 acres and with a creek running through it. And so all of the kids that were kind of throwaway kids, they came to our house. The ones that their parents didn't want them, or their parents were at the bar, or, for whatever reason, I cannot, and my kids and I were thinking about it the other day, cannot remember a time from the time my oldest son was 8 years old until my youngest son graduated from high school and got married, that there was less than 7 people in our house at any time. And we only have 2 kids. Yeah. So, there was just always other kids at our house, and they would have ping pong tournaments in the basement and, basketball outside in the snow and whatever. Like, there was just always kids here, and those kids still call me mom. Those kids still like send me the pictures of their babies when they're being born because somebody cared about them. And the testimony that you can share from a place of strength and giving and kindness in a space like that is phenomenal.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm so excited for you.
You made me tear up a little bit. Thank you. Yeah. So I want to see you guys start to dream a little bit more. Like, even like I said, things you thought you might have put away. Do you want to go to Tahiti with your spouse and take the kids? And it costs, by the way, I got a quote for that the other year. We went another route, but it was like $28,000 for all 7 of us to go for a week for flights and the the little huts on the water. It ain't cheap. So, but if there's some sort of dream that you have, like, just know it, those things are possible, and talking, maybe there's someone else that has a dream of going to Tahiti or whatever it might be, right? Or having a 5-acre property up on the mountain like Laura, and their dream is to get out of the city, and they just don't know how to do it. But then Laura comes along, starts to do it, and shows the way, right? Cool. Is there anything else that you guys want to share? Or we can wrap it up if you guys want. I'm good either way.
I didn't get much read this week, honestly, because
Okay.
we had a grandbaby, and so that kind of I was at the hospital a lot. But it just, my struggle is with my story. Like, I feel, kind of like Justin does, that it's not different or cool than anybody else's story. And so I have a hard time picking pieces out, because the pieces that are different and the things that I've overcome, I don't want to share. So that makes it really hard for me, because, like, how do you share stuff when you don't want to get that personal with people, because there's other people involved? Like, I came from an alcoholic family, and I'm not an alcoholic. Like, that's a big, huge thing for me. And one of the reasons why health and fitness is so important to me. And all of the women in my family died by the time they were 50. Like, from my grandmother to all my aunts, they're dead. I'm 50. And so, like, those kind of things. But there's so many people in my family that are affected by those stories, and they feel really uncomfortable with me sharing them. And I don't really know how to get around that.
Laura, I saw Laura raise her hand. I have something, but Laura, go ahead.
My great grandfather, Durham Tecumseh Carlisle, died from alcoholism, and it runs in families. I was an alcoholic. I don't know if you know that, but I've been sober for 8 years, and your story could change someone's life. You don't have to talk about alcoholism. You can just talk about addiction, because addiction is in all forms. It's, people are shopping addicted. They're addicted to shopping and porn and sugar and, tobacco and drugs. And I mean, it's a big pool of addiction. So without maybe pointing out one particular thing, you could just share how addiction has played a part in your role to change your life.
Yeah.
And then,
because it could change someone. It could help someone go, oh, I'm from a family like that too, and I don't know how to deal with it. Can you help me? I mean, there's a lot of people out there who come from that background, who maybe weren't addicted but have family members that were. So, and how you've overcome that, and you could probably save a life.
absolutely. Yeah, so that's a great way to do it, like publicly, because we're talking kind of publicly. You don't want to
Right.
about people. But what I do want you to remember is that there are stories in my life that have never been on social media, that tens, if not 20, 30s, 40, 50 at times, depending on which story, that individual coaches I mentor know from my life, or prospects, where if I'm chatting with them and I hear something from them, or I feel, I don't know, the spirit tell me to say something, that they'll learn something about me that no one on social media knows. And we make that connection on a personal level where you're not.
I'm good at that.
Yeah. So
I am good at that.
I mean, if we're doing like the business activity tracker, reaching out to, starting 3 to 5 conversations a day, like if that's the most powerful story you have, every one of those prospects at some point, at least if you get on the phone with them, you should tell that story.
Yeah. I talk a lot about, my dad was a quadriplegic for 17 years. He had an accident, and then he had a stroke. But the stroke was from, well, I believe that he was in that position because of his compromised health, because he was an alcoholic, and like, just not in good health anyways. So then when he had that, it kind of was a catalyst for all of that. So it's really, so I tell people a lot that it's really hard to live your best life from a hospital bed, because I've seen that for 17 years. I watched him try to engage with the grandkids when he could not move his arms and legs, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, ugh.
So those are all, and that story makes you emotional. So it moves you. So I know that will move other people as well.
Yeah.
Also, even the story you told about the kids coming over to your house, it doesn't even have to lead anywhere. It's a story, like it moved me. Like I felt emotional about that story. So that's a story. You gave specific example of kids would come over, even painted the picture of them playing basketball in the snow, or I imagined the creek in the backyard when you said it. I saw you receiving a text from one of those kids saying that, sharing that they had a baby and they call you mom. So you could tell stories like that, and relate it to how coaching makes you feel like that as well. Like it's an open
That's a good idea.
community where people that maybe don't have love and support at home or from their friends come in and you give them that. You're not necessarily their mom in that instance, but you're their best friend, and you create a tribe around that, right? So there's lots of ways to connect like that.
That's a good idea.
And now that you're a new grandma, can you imagine not being able to hold your little granddaughter? What did you
Granddaughter.
have?
That's the story I'm going to tell today, actually, is
Yeah, I
from the
mean, that
health
would be
from my family.
devastating.
Yeah, because I've lost like all my aunts, and I never knew my grandma, because all of those people were dead before, they died from 36 years old to 50 from heart problems. And so then to, I don't know, even get this old feels like really emotional.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
a big win. It's a great big win.
Yeah, absolutely. It
Huge.
is huge. Tag us in that. I want to read that post.
Yeah, me too.
Well, those of
We're
us that
gonna
are
do good.
on here, Susan, Laura, Michelle, Justin, I want you each to write a post of some sort of story. It doesn't have to be extravagant, or you don't have to think it is. Remember, like when Michelle told the story about the kids in her yard, she wasn't like, oh, someone on this call is gonna be moved emotionally by that. Like she didn't think that, but stories connect. So don't be afraid. Just put it out there and tag us in it. So does that sound good? Okay. All right. Well, we'll end this call for the day. Next week, reading assignment is chapter 6 and 7, 109 through 152. We'll meet on March 7th. I also want to let you guys know I'm working right now, just so you guys know, to do a team call with one of the body trainers on March 8th, the day after. So it'll be Wednesday at noon Mountain Time. She was one of my former Star Diamond coaches, Jenny Haushin. She's a really fun one that does a lot of dancing and stuff. She's one of my old Star Diamond coaches. And then she got recruited to be a body trainer. So she wanted to come do a call for our team about just lots of great things, body and mindset and stuff. So just be on the lookout for that.
What time is that? Wednesday, the 8th?
Wednesday the 8th at noon. I haven't verified it, but that's when I'm thinking that's the time we last chatted about this morning. So cool. All right. We'll see you guys on next week's call and on the
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the gala, like who's doing what?
So basically what I'm doing, Lindsay Matway and Bonnie Engel are hosting a live video. It's in the Level Up Squad page.
Okay.
They made an event, but there's just a URL that you click on that's for the Zoom, and they're going to do like a welcome. And then it will like tie into the official one. So what I'm
Okay.
getting, they'll do their own little thing, be some back and forth chat, talk, fun team stuff, and then they'll stream the live one.
Cool. I took the night off from work, and I have some of my other coaches and then coaches that aren't on my team that I just know from the area. We're all going to get dressed up and get together. But we were like, where do we watch from? What do we do? So
yeah, so that it's in the team page. So you'll just log into that and put on your TV.
cool. Thanks.
Okay. All right.
Where are
We'll
you
see
gonna
guys.
be, Michelle?
What's that?
Where are you gonna watch it?
We're going